Welcome to the Diesel Podcast presented by DFC Diesel. I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah.
What have you been up to at Dynamite?
Um, I'm going to I'm going to Australia here this weekend, and I'll be gone for about 10 days. And let me get this. There we go. I'll be gone for about 10 days. I've got uniquely enough, Australia, there's less than 40 million people in Australia. So like basically the population of like California, right? And yet they've got a massive land mass. And pretty much in every other driveway there is some form of a hot rod race car or something. So there is just a truckload of aftermarket ECM manufacturers there. So I'm fixing to go over there and dig into some aftermarket ECM stuff. And my buddy Pat has invited me to his workshop so we can look at like ISX, QSK. He's got rate trace set up on pretty much every stand in his shop. So I'm going to be working with him on, heavy duty, big rig stuff. And we've got friends at Sloan Diesel, and they've got rate trace set up on a P7100 pump. So I'm actually going to go over there with a bunch of our parts. Like I'm taking one of my pump cams and a bunch of our like injectors, delivery valves, things like that. And we're going to be checking rate trace on mechanical stuff as well. So I think I land and then I'm on the ground for about 24 hours. We jump on a bus and then we head to the airport. In the, I think, 8 or 10 days that I'm there, I think I have two other flights in Australia. So there's like zero downtime. It's all in workshop, go, 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 go. Like I'm not going to the beach. There's zero chance I'm going to get eaten by an alligator, a crocodile, or a shark. Like it's all going to be work, but I'm very excited. I'm thinking it's going to be a good trip for Dynamite. And it's also fun, to go see friends in their own workplaces and see what it's like, right?
Have you ever been there before?
Negative. No,
First
I'm
time.
not looking forward to the flight either. Like I can drive, for days on end, and it's cool because I know when I'm going to stop for fuel and where I'm going to stop for fuel, and I know what the inside of the gas station looks like and all that. But when I'm in a aluminum tube going 600 miles an hour, I don't know. I'm I'm already losing sleep over it. Really, I'm not that excited. But so yeah, I go there and then I land. I land at home. Um, I'm down on the ground for basically two days, and then we have our master class at Dynamite on the 17th and 18th. So yeah, right after that, there's another snowmobile hill climb, and then uh, I've got a customer that is requesting my attention. This next poker run, I got thoroughbred, I got UCC every other week for this. It's wild, but I'm not looking forward to it.
Gonna be busy.
It is wild. Like, and then with everything that's going on in the last 60 days, I don't know how you feel about it, but I've been watching the news and watching YouTube and listening to ridiculous dudes saying ridiculous things about what they can do to older trucks now. And it's like the wild wild west is going to get fired back up, and I'm thinking you guys are insane. Don't This is, if they're going to roll back the standards on emissions for new trucks, that doesn't mean that you and your shop and some dude with a laptop get to go wild cowboy and do whatever you want to a truck. That's not how that's going to work. Like, I've got a 19, I've got a 24, and if modern day technology, ECM, injection pressure, things like that, was to put out the correct output out the tailpipe, and it didn't require EGR and it didn't require urea, well, that'd be nice. But I highly doubt they're going to let us get away with like eliminating a DPF from the OEM standard. So, worst case scenario is it works really, really good, and all the new trucks only have DPF, and it takes all of the value of my 24 and it makes it look really bad because if that happens in 27, everybody's going to look at 22s, 23s, 24s, 25s. They're going to be like, did that have urea on it? Yeah. Did that have EGR on it? Yeah. I don't want that. But it could be good for the future. I mean, hell, a truck's $100,000. And if you can get rid of 10 grand worth of emissions gear at the OEM level, then we're back down to $90,000 trucks. And that could be pretty cool.
It's really tough because I've been trying to do some research on the deregulation, and we're chatting about it today. I have some other guys coming on to talk about it, and there's a lot of videos out there with suggestions for things, and it's so. I guess the one thing I've learned through doing episodes about it is there's real repercussions that can result in felonies, losing the right to vote, losing the right to own guns. It's so. I guess you'd want the dust to settle and to know what what it actually means before jumping into it. That's the thing that kind of jumped out to me.
The bigger your company is, or the bigger your liabilities are, the more research you definitely want to do before doing anything at this point, right? Because I feel like pieces are moving so quickly that if you break a law today and then a month down the road the law is no longer any good, if a case gets opened up against you when it was still a law, then you've still broken the law, right? Like, I'm not, with the size of our company and the success of our company and how we've done things so far, I'm not willing to risk anything. And there's enough money being made out there right now just keeping OEM stuff alive. The injector remanufacturing stuff that we've got going right now is our number one selling part number is the 5.9 Cummins stock injector. So why compromise what you're making money with? Why compromise that for potentially illegal things? That doesn't make sense to me. Not at the margin. There's just not enough margin in any of it to make it worthwhile. And yeah, I've got friends that have been to prison. I have zero interest in going anywhere close to that place. Like, no thanks. I'm not doing it. So,
I was just gonna say, I think that's a good part to focus on is the corporate, maybe not corporate, but like the business perspective you have, because I looked through the comments on some of those videos, and people are excited, elated. They think that this is what it's going to be, but I don't know. I don't know what it's going to turn out, how it's going to work out. But from a corporate standpoint, how do you look at it? Maybe not necessarily with that 5.9 stock injector, but what about like the 6.7s and some of the newer trucks? Like, how do you approach it from, all the employees you have, the building, all the things you guys are doing? It's a bit different than just saying, I saw this deregulation video and now we're going to do this.
Yeah. Like the ignorance level is pretty high with some of those, like kind of YouTube dreamers. And I don't know, maybe they're right. Maybe in 6 months, they've all proven me wrong. And, like, God bless, I hope that's correct. I hope that works. But I'm not going to put me and my employees in any sort of a predicament that way. It's just not until I can go to somebody's official US website of some department and read it officially, print a copy of it, and know that from this day forward, I printed that piece of paper off of their website. I put it in an envelope and I mail it to myself with a postage stamp and a postmark on it. And I know that I'm not breaking any laws. We're not going anywhere near any of that stuff. Like, I'm still 100% focused on trying to control as best I can any emissions output out the tailpipe to be as close to CARB, EPA, whoever I got to be within. We're still the trajectory of our company is not changing. We're still on course for that. And I kind of enjoy it because it's the challenge is there, but the way that you drive a set of, like even our 5.9 stock injector drives, if you had 6 of them put in a truck, you jumped in the truck, it's stock output with emissions, but it responds so well to the throttle input and it responds so well to boost, and it doesn't ping and it doesn't rattle. There's nothing gross. They drive so fun that it makes me happy knowing that we've overcome challenges that the OEMs couldn't overcome with all the funding and all the planning and all the engineers they had. we're still figuring it out, 20, 25 years later. It's crazy, dude. I've been in business 25 years, and in June, it'll be 25 years.
Wow. That's a big milestone. That's
Oh, dude, it's crazy. Yeah, and yeah, it's it makes me proud of the company. Like walking around the shop now, I there's like 30 of us ish there, and I don't have to do anything, but I still, which is freeing me up. Like this morning, the people that we've been using, so our ISBs like 98.5 to O2s, and our old 12 valve stuff like 89 to 93 and then 94 to 98. We are we're updating some of that stuff, and we're basically, like, common rail technology has taught us that rate trace is a real thing. So if you can effectively smack the needle valve with as much volume as possible, as fast as possible, and dump it off the needle valve as fast as possible, then you put out a cleaner, not only emissions, but an overall horsepower. Like, it's just better, right? So this morning, I spent 3 hours working on body modifications and trying to get, drawings and things. There's a local machine shop that we're having modify single units so we can get them tested. And we're also shooting off emails to the factories that we're using to have them start updating prints. And, we got a lot of those injectors already in the pipeline. Like, they're either on a boat, they're in a plane, or they're in a factory getting done. And we're not shutting those orders off. We're just going to change. It's just a constant evolution to try and create a better part. And, it might be 6 months, it might be 12 months before those are done. But I've already, we're constantly thinking about, like, how do we do this better in the future? And sometimes the employees get frustrated because it's like, we're already moving parts that are good quality. Nobody complains about them. But I'm constantly thinking, well, yeah, but could it be better? Like, I think it could. And if we do it now, we don't have to wait for somebody else to get better than us. And then we've got to try and recover, right? So it's, for me, as old as these trucks are, 25 years old, trying to make them things just work better is really my goal.
Hey, Diesel fans, wanted to let you guys know that our friends over at Kershaw Knives have a 40% off MSRP code for you. If you go to kershaw.kaiusa.com, use code TDP2540, you get your 40% off MSRP. It's a great way to save some money, get some cool gear if you're in the market for a new EDC knife, something for hunting, fishing, around the job site, around the house. They've got you covered with a bunch of different choices for blade steel, opening mechanisms, handle designs, and their whole lineup is designed to meet any budget that you might have. So we really appreciate them offering that discount code just for Diesel podcast listeners. So if you're in the market, head on over to kershaw.kaiusa.com, use code TDP2540, and get 40% off MSRP. I think with, like, the emissions side of it, we would all love to be able to have, like, a brand new Power Stroke Duramax or Cummins with none of that stuff on it. And you think of just the power they make, the tow ratings, the payload, the technology, all that stuff's awesome. But the framework that you've had to operate within has really forced you to to learn more, to experiment more, to figure out how to make more power, less fuel, cleaner burn, all those sorts of things. And I think, like, if you were to time travel back to like 2006, and the injector, say you'd build for like 1,000 horsepower 5.9 at that time versus what you would do now, it's probably like light years different the way you would approach doing it because of what you learned the last 15 years or so.
I work with, Chase pretty often on projects, and he's been working on a 2.6-inch sled pull motor that's virtually his motor. But him and I have had a lot of talks and ideas and thoughts about, like, all the stuff that Common Rails taught us. What if we just employed that stuff in the mechanical injection? And as of last night on my drive home, which, would have put him 8 o'clock at night, he was within 20 or 30 horsepower of a real rowdy, like, king of the ring dyno number for a 2.6. And these are over 1200 horsepower, 2.6-inch turbos, right? So it's pretty wild that we're actually making that kind of power with P7100s and mechanical injectors. But I bet you conservatively, we're somewhere between 20 and 30 sets of injectors that he's dyno tested, let alone the different style connector tubes, different modifications, connector tubes, lines like pumps. He's been working with Kevin at Northeast. He's had another couple of loaner pumps that were supposed to be, rock stars. And the rumor mill is always like, well, you put this on, it's going to be 40 horse better. You put that on, it's going to be 40 horse better. And that is all dog wash. It's horrible information. There's no magic 40 horse. There's no magic 50 horse. It's a combination thing. Like you take a turbo that completely dominates in a common rail and you put it on that mechanical motor and it might be off. And you put a turbo that doesn't work very well with common rail and it rips really hard with this mechanical. So he has learned a truckload and it's been nice to be a part of that because like it's learning me as well at the same rate. So it's there's no doubt that him having his own engine dyno right there on site isn't teaching him every single day more just things to even try, right? And we're getting ready to release a large diameter. Let me restate that. So the lines are from Germany and the material is better than the OEM quality material that the common rail injector line's made of. So we have these lines that are burst tested to like 50,000 psi, but they're bigger ID because the wall is actually a little bit thinner, and yeah, they rock. But Skyler had them in his stand, and we set up a rail, and then we ran a regular 6-7 line to an injector, looked at rate trace and all the things, and then put the line that we've been working on feeding the same injector. We picked up 10 MMs cubed. The rate trace is substantially cleaner, sharper, faster. So we're fixing to start selling those lines. And then, with that comes, well, we got LB7 injectors. We should probably start selling lines. Just if we can buy enough of those things, I really wish that every guy that ever bought an LB7 injector from us damn near got a free line. That way I didn't have to worry about that guy putting a bunch of trash from his old used dirty line because those things get horribly like scummed up inside the injector nut. So I'd just assume, take that chance out. And if they ordered a set of injectors, they get a free set of lines kind of a thing. So we've got two guys in the shop that have been working on sourcing gaskets and everything so we can put together like a really good LB7s are just old and they need more than just injectors now. So we're trying to put together a full package. So buy once, cry once, and everything shows up in a box. You can just do it to it. The big diameter 6-7 line is very exciting. So those should be here. We have one set. We've got 20 more sets coming. And as long as those get tested by our inside team, the Patrick O'Brien's, the Chases, the Chad Perkinses, like those guys will beat on those things at 240 MPA, and no street truck's ever going to see that. But if they don't burst the line, then street guys are never going to burst the line. And it could be, we're only testing them in extreme situations right now with good success. But some of these trucks are getting old enough that the lines are randomly breaking no matter what, right? So this could be the kind of thing, since it's such a higher quality tube, and these are engineered. Like these aren't just like some dude, like silver soldering on tubes. These are like engineered lines. So, my theory is like, I can remember like stock 5.9s and stock 6.7s just breaking fuel rails or fuel lines. And when they do, it's a lot of volume in a really short duration of time. I don't want to ever see somebody's truck catch fire. And it's, like it happened to our UCC truck before. So, again, we're trying to make a little bit better quality part that's going to be a little bit more reliable and still support the race teams as well. So I'm pretty stoked about those things as well.
I bet that's something that, like with these older trucks, because there's a resurgence of them. or a popularity with a lot of different ones that it's just time and mileage that, maybe they didn't have issues per se, within the first 10 years of their life, but now they're 20 years old, maybe getting older. There's
Yeah.
probably a lot of opportunity there with, not just the injectors, but with the other fuel system components to be able
Yeah.
to keep them running.
Right. Right. And, you know, I was watching a thing last night and it was some economist out of Washington, D.C., and he was talking about like the rise of the ultra wealthy people in the USA and the decline of the percentage of, middle to upper middle class people in percentage wise, right? So his claim is like there's a lot more at the very bottom right now, and there's a lot more at the very, very, very top than there ever was. Like we used to not have, you had like the Commodore, you had Ford, Boeing. You had all these guys that were at the very top, and they employed hundreds, if not thousands, of people. The Carnegies, like these people were super high end elitists, and they were employing a lot of people with really good jobs. And then, during the last 20, 30 years, the middle wage has flatlined. It hasn't really gone up enough to keep up with the inflation. If you were making 50 grand a year in 1990, you were doing damn well. Like you had a swimming pool, the wife had a nice car, you had a nice pickup, you were taking 2, 3, 4 weeks vacation. And right now, if or around here anyway, if you're not making 100 grand a year and your wife's not making damn good money, you're not doing any of those things. You don't have a swimming pool in the backyard. So this economist is basically claiming like, and this is going to go into the tariff for the Trump stuff, but the Trump tariffs are the quickest, easiest, dirtiest, fastest way to try and push people into manufacturing stuff in the USA again. And, I was really hot on getting injector nozzle manufacturing done myself in the USA 3 years ago. COVID killed me. We're still eating warranties that nozzles that came out of Italy every single day. They're just killing us. So even though they've expired time-wise, like my people are instructed that if it was one of our Italian nozzles that we had during COVID, we just automatically warranty it out no matter what, because I don't want my reputation damaged because of some lying Italian guy that told me that the stuff wasn't, I was complaining about it and he was telling me I was wrong. So as the days go on, as the years go on, we're probably going to have to replace all those things. And if we do it 6 of them a day, it's not that big of a deal to us. Just trying to save my own reputation, right? So, Jesus, Patrick, where was I?
I think it was leading into the tariffs.
Tariffs. So that's the fastest legal thing he can do to try and drive Americans back to work, back to not working for the government, not working for. This is like the real way to get people in the middle class back in the trades and drive those trade job wages up again. So, I've always kind of thought that like capitalism was the king and socialism was the greatest. And, I've always hustled and worked hard. So I kind of have to be like pro Trump. And it wasn't necessarily because I was pro Trump. It was because I was like anti a lot of the other stuff. Like it was just so far. I don't want any of, my daughters to go play sports and have a dude walking around in their locker room, or worse yet, put a serve up over a net, smack one of my daughters in the face with like, dude strength. That's not fair. So some of those things really drove me away from that whole idea. But on the financial side of it, there's always going to be a struggle to fix up and clean up any mess. And in the last 60 days, I can't say the financial struggle is, we're not through the woods yet, but I know that locally at my grocery store, eggs are down $3 or $4 per dozen. And I know that I can buy as many dozen as I want right now, to where before you could buy 1 dozen, but then the second dozen was over $10 for a dozen. I can see that diesel is, 20, 30 cents a gallon cheaper already. And I'm really hoping that that transfers into electricity, because my electric bill this year, for the first time ever, I mean, it was $300 worse than it's ever been during like my cold months. And that was shocking to me, because we bought a waste oil burner for the garage. The garage is 4,500 feet. And that used to be done on just radiant floor heat. And this year I was using waste oil and a little bit of radiant floor heat, and we're still $300. So, my biggest power bill out here was $700, and then I cracked 1,000, and I thought, holy smokes! Like, and how many times have I told you on this podcast, if everybody buys a Tesla and electric vehicle, then the cost of electricity is going to go up. Well, what are we at, like 8? We're at less than 10% of all the vehicles being sold today are still EVs, and electricity is already going up. So nuclear power would be probably the next alternative to generate a lot of electricity, is my guess. But then you got the the AI farms, and they're claiming those things consume twice the amount of electricity that we're currently consuming right now today. So, I mean, AI seems to be pretty cool. You don't really have to type your own paper. You can talk about it. You can ask the computer to write the paper for you. Like, AI could be really neat. But that's a lot of electricity being consumed for people that just want to run a toaster or an oven or their hot tub or their lights. If it drives, we have to figure out energy. We've got to fix energy prices. We got to take care of that problem. And I sure hope that, but you said resurgence, which was an awesome word. I'm so proud of you.
Don't ask me to spell it, though. No,
no, I couldn't either. I'd have to use AI. If the tariff thing starts to work, and we get people back to work, and dudes and dudettes wages go up by 10-20%, then the cost of inflation starts to settle down a little bit. We're not going to get rid of inflation. They've already printed too much money, and a lot of that money wasn't even for us, right? So, I mean, conspiracy theorists like Armadillo with aluminum foil, like, call me what you want, but man, it's a mess out there right now, and it's making all these older trucks maintain value quite a bit. But one thing that I will say is, I've got that blue truck that I've had for years now, 32,000 miles on it. Years ago, I posted the thing I just said, you guys can make me offers or whatever. And I had like 13 offers in 60 minutes. And I thought, I better not sell this. Well, now, 5 years later, I've done a bunch more work to the truck. We documented the heck out of it on YouTube. There's a bunch of followers, a bunch of people love it. And I'm like, all right, guys, like, first 60 grand takes this truck. And I haven't had a single tire kicker yet. Nobody's got 60 grand. And if they do, they're damn sure not going to spend it on a second gen Dodge right now. So it's a wild time. Like, we have changed. I really thought this thing would have gone. And I think maybe in 2 more years, if, like I'm talking about those guys that are making 60, 70, 80 grand a year right now, if all of a sudden those guys are making 80, 90, or 100, they might start thinking about buying second gen Dodges for way too much money. But hashtag dream truck, you guys, hashtag dream truck. Until then, I think we're stuck just fixing trucks, brakes, ball joints, injectors, worn out turbos, head gaskets, motors. I think that's where people are at right now.
Common question we get from you guys a lot is, hey, I need a diesel engine. I either, I can't wait this long to get one, or normal place I get stuff from it just takes too long, or they don't have the parts in it that I need. Maybe my truck's not stock, or I tow heavy with it. I don't want to go back with just a stock engine. DFC Diesel is a sponsor of the podcast. We worked with them, hand in hand on doing episodes, answering technical questions. They have a complete lineup of Cummins, Duramax, and Power Stroke remanufactured engines that are set to a standard of ISO 9001 2015 standards, which is a huge deal in the aftermarket. And there's certain levels of quality testing, validation that are required for that. So when you get one of those engines, the type of quality that's built behind it, with an industry-leading warranty that's really comprehensive. And the other thing with that is, sometimes the options that are out there, it's a basic OEM engine. You want a little bit more. You don't want to have the same failure again. So there's a bunch of different series of engines that they have, from core, street, tow haul, and also the Speed of Air series, which we've covered on the podcast before. There's a lot of really cool benefits to it. And if you have questions about that, reach out to them. If you don't know the type of engine that you're looking for, if you go to dfcdiesel.com, there's a ton of info there. You can send an email or you can reach out to them. Also, they're working with Speed of Air pistons, which it's the only piston that pays for itself. And there's a lot of really cool technology behind it. So you can add that into your build and be able to get better fuel economy, increase power, increase torque, and better engine life out of it. Some of the most common engine applications or series of engines that they have with that lead time, a lot of them are in stock or they have really short lead times. So you can check your favorite retailer or go to dfcdiesel.com, check them out, see what's in stock, see what you can get. If you have questions, maybe you want to do something that's outside of the normal series of engines, they have tons of choices for rods, cranks, pistons, valve train upgrades, tons of different things. So if you're in the market, definitely make sure and head on over and check them out. Was it for the longest time kind of about the latest and greatest truck? Like the newest one came out and there was a huge push for, tuning, and then with turbos and injectors and injection pump and transmission stuff. Has it been different kind of dusting off those old books of like 7.3 stuff or LB7s or some of the older ones because of this resurgence and the interest in the older ones?
I didn't think that 2 years ago I would have been sitting here today spending. We have now dynoed our LB7 3 days with 2 different sets of injectors. The truck is currently at the Chevrolet garage, and if I get a phone call, I'm going to try and run up there and pick the thing up. I didn't think that I would be spending the inventory dollars on all the ancillary parts to do injectors. I didn't think that the LB7 project, because those bodies are trash, like they're brittle. There's a lot of when you break the nut that holds the line to the body, sometimes that thing gets glued on there so hard that it breaks out this little shear pin and it virtually renders the body pretty much trash. I didn't think that LB7 was going to be like our next big deal, but it certainly is still a very strong number of trucks that are out there. And instead of 6, you got 8 injectors. So you're almost 20% more injectors out under every hood. It's kind of shocking to me to see how 25-year-old trucks, 22-year-old trucks are, like you said, making the resurgence. And I believe that that's because, like, in America, we want our toys. Like, we want our boats, we want our snowmobiles, we want our stuff. And we're completely willing to drive something. And this is kind of like oxymoronic in a way, because like when you drive an LB7 or a 2003 to 2007 Dodge pickup truck with a camper in the bed and a boat behind it, today, like, you feel like you're on borrowed time because you're trying to keep up with brand new vehicles. But then you take a brand new vehicle, first and foremost, they weigh 2 to maybe even 3 or 4,000 pounds more. So you complain about gas mileage all you want, but you've got a lot more insulation. You've got a lot bigger truck. They got bigger axles, bigger brakes, bigger everything. They've got heavier transmissions that last a lot better than the old stuff. And they rip, like they're 450 horsepower stock, right? So you try and compete with a brand new truck that costs 105, 110 grand with a truck that was 20 years old. It's not the same driving experience. So the fuel economy of the new stuff is going to be like less for sure, but it is physically. And I had this argument with one of my buddies the other day. We were snowmobiling, and he's like, "What can we do to make my '08, get as good a gas mileage as my '00?" And I'm like, "Well, you could lose 3,000 pounds." And he's like, "What are you talking about? They're both damn near 10,000 pounds." I'm like, "Not even close, bro. Like, your second gen Dodge might be 6,500, 6,800 pounds." So, of course, he grabs the almighty Google, his phone, and he's like, "By damn, shoot, curb weight on my truck's only 5,800 pounds." I'm like, "Yeah, I know. Now look up your '08 dually $3,500. Oh, wow, it's 3,000 pound difference. You're not going to move 3,000 pounds for free, right? Like, it doesn't happen. But when you've got a boat and a camper, I would much rather drive a 9,000 pound truck than a 6,000 pound truck. Call me crazy.
With the newer ones, like, say trucks that are 3 to 5 years old, and you look out a few years, what do you think's going to be, if you had to forecast, what are truck owners going to want? Like the older trucks, you had mentioned the biggest seller, like stock injectors, right? For those older ones. What do you think they're going to be for the newer ones? Is it going to be the kind of the same thing, or do you think it may be more power? What do you think they're going to want?
I'll tell you where I'm putting my money. I'm putting my money on people. If you have a 450 horsepower truck, you're not going to need more power. But if you have a 2024 Dodge Ram, and I say that because I'm looking straight at mine right now. If that truck had 200,000 miles on it and it needed a set of injectors, or my 2019 is parked out here as well, and that truck, it used to do check engine lights fairly frequently. Once we straightened out the injectors and got them to where they were like perfectly balanced, the emissions gear in the truck became more reliable. And with all the heavy duty truck stuff that we've been working on, the one thing that I know for a fact is if you've got a set of injectors that run good, but the truck is hard on DPF life, then if you pull the injectors out, we balance them and get them straight and square. It makes the truck more reliable and it runs smoother. It might not make a whole bunch more power, but the reliability is up. And I believe that's why I say I know where I'm putting my money. I'm putting my money on trying to make the highest quality, best balanced common rail emission series injectors possible, because I think that's what people are going to want in 2, 3, 4, even right now. But yeah, as they get further into the future, I would say that if you go to, the Dodge garage, buy a set of 6 injectors that are going to pass in a test stand, and then buy 6 dynamites that are perfectly balanced, I'd be willing to bet you that the emissions gear under the truck, because of constant BTU being the same from each and every single cylinder, the emissions gear is going to last better and it's going to give you more serviceability. That's what I think. They don't need more power. They just don't.
So do you have any plans to pick up a 2025 Ram? They look kind of cool with a bunch of changes that they've made, and it seems like the latest and greatest.
It's definitely the latest and greatest. I definitely believe they needed to make some changes. I feel like they finally stepped up, but absolutely not. I'm not going to buy one. They, with the feds changing the emissions regulations, my intention is to wait to see what the next generation of emissions stuff is, because I do believe that it's probably going to be a little bit more lax. And I do believe the truck will probably be a little bit more reliable because they're going to get rid of some gear, I guarantee you. So, yeah, I think, if they take what is in this truck and they're allowed to eliminate, even if they got rid of EGR or DPF or SCR or urea, that would be kind of nice. Like I don't mind a clean tailpipe. I really hate pouring DEF in my truck though. That's the only thing that's ever gone wrong with my trucks is the DEF heater. It melts, and then it as soon as it goes to pumping, it pumps all the DEF on the ground and all over the bottom of your truck and all over your trailer. So, and the reason I know that is because it just happened like 2 weeks ago for the second time. Love it.
It's a really weird time, I think. I think in diesel, because of the way, like, gosh, I guess I've kind of been around it for a while now. I'm starting to feel old. But like, I remember when the DPFs were brand new, right? And then, right, 2010, 11, 12, the big thing then was the 4th-gen Rams didn't have DEF, but
Right.
the other ones did. And the thing was, we could get better fuel economy with, an LML or a 6.7 Power Stroke because they had a DEF system. It was just more efficient. And then we get to this point now where it's like there was enforcement for years. There was companies put out of business, people in prison. There were massive fines. And then there's all this change happening now, and it's like I don't even know where to start. Like, yeah, I want to have an emissions lawyer on to talk about what does this actually mean, like for him and his clients. And then there's, the political kind of legislative aspect to it. But then there's the corporate side, which is, well, how quickly are companies going to want to turn to that? Are they going to want to go spend money on a 2025 project truck, dig into it? What if, like you mentioned, what if things change and it's going to be different? It's just there's so many unknowns that it's exciting, but it's, I don't know. We all just kind of want answers. We want like this black and white. This is how things are going to work.
Yeah. So, like the way you just stated all of that was almost like it was the year 2030 and we were looking back at things
Yeah.
because stuff's moving so very, very, very quickly that, I wouldn't be shocked in a week if somebody came out and said, this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. And like I said, as long as they hit somebody's official website and I can, take a screenshot, print it, nothing would surprise me at this point. Like nothing. Like there's so many moving balls. I I think right now is a great time to just pump the brakes and chill for a minute and figure out what is really going to go on. There's a whole lot because well, you were talking about like some of the Ford parts getting tariffed, and the Power Stroke project was going to be what did you say, $2,500 in
It was
tariffs?
something I was reading earlier about the 6.7 Power Stroke, I think on April 2nd, which when this goes out, it'll already be April 2nd. But yeah, the tariffs hitting the Power Strokes that's built in Mexico, and then GM, where some of their parts and trucks are built, and the tariff that's going to be on it. I'm sure Stellantis and Ram, they have their own, but there was this article that was talking about, it, and I thought, huh, are you really going to notice $2,500 on 110 grand? Probably not, but like, how's it going to affect the aftermarket, if at all? There's so many things happening so fast, it's hard to keep up with.
So the tariff thing, right? Like there are there's tariff partners, let's call it. Some countries are very, very low in tariffs, and some countries are going to be very, very high. There's been a game for as long as I've ever known about this where these dudes would ship product from one country to a non-tariff country, and then it would leave that country and then it would get shipped to the USA. And Italy being one of them. Like they've always claimed that they make their own parts and it comes in saying made in Italy, but not everything that you get out of Italy was made in Italy. So that being said, I think that the new racket, the new criminal racket, is going to be these companies finding partners that can get stuff made where they've always had them made and ship it to another country. And then once it leaves that country, it'll finally come to the States to try and save some money. So, but there again, like right now, injector parts coming out of China, the tariff is like 25 or 28 or 29%. Injector parts coming out of Taiwan is very, very, very low. Now the problem is like the Chinese people, technology wise, and this hurts to say, are really, really, really advanced right now. So to me, it's worth the extra 25% to get something that's made by somebody that's been doing it, that's done a really good job, rather than take a chance on somebody to save a tariff. I'm not there. But what I will say is, and I really hope this to be true, if Trump honestly wants to put people back to work, then what he would do is offer companies like mine government grants so we could borrow money at very low interest rates, buy all of these tools that we're going to have to get all across the world, and then start turning bar stock steel into nozzles, into injector bodies, into God knows whatever, and put Americans back to making American made parts. And if that, I've already told our CFO and our manager, keep your eyes peeled on government grant programs. The day that they pop out, I want to be one of the first people filling out the paperwork, right? So, I mean, American pride's a real thing for me. It's unfortunate, but there's nobody that manufactures nozzles in the USA that can do what my marketplace needs done. There's not one. There's not one person. So I wanted to be the one person, but I damn sure can't do it at 10%. The finances aren't there. By the time I pay an American, you know, 80, 90, 100 grand a year, and there's some dude in China that's making $3 a day, we're not going to be able to be competitive. So everybody would be like, gosh, Dynomite stuff might be made in America, but I can't justify the extra cost. So I would just put myself out of business by trying to do it right now. If, like I say, if the new administration decides that they really want to get serious about putting people back to work, then not just for Dynomite, but they're going to have to do the whole entire country. You're good at that. Okay, well, here's some money. Go get better at that. You're good at that. Go get better at that. You're good at that. Go get better at that. So, but we really have to invest in a lot of technology, and um, I think that we really have to get off of our arrogance because Americans think we're really smart. We really do. And I've spent a lot of money on some very expensive tools, reading papers that come from other countries that aren't supposed to be as smart as us, and it leaves me scratching my head wondering how we think we're so good, like how we think we're so sharp. Kind of astounds me because there's a lot of people that are studying a lot harder and they're making a lot less money. So man, it's a challenge right now and I love it because the challenge is what makes being a business owner and an entrepreneur. That's what makes it entertaining for us, right? Like our net goal is always to try and give the highest quality product to the customer at the lowest price, so you can actually afford to move it. But if it was all USA made, we wouldn't even be close to price competitive.
I think ahead to something you've talked about. And I know there's a lot of business owners that love, well, they listen because they need injectors and they love hearing you talk, but they love when you talk about some of the things that pertain to running a business. And so I'm thinking about what you just mentioned with where you source product, maybe grants to incentivize companies to build the stuff here. Where do you find the people to man these new machines? Where do you find the workforce if, now your workload, say, triples and, kind of marrying those two things together?
On the way home today, I got a really amazing phone call from a guy who's currently spending 350 grand a year with another competitor. Actually, the guy's not a competitor at all because he's buying Reman Caterpillar product and he's not happy with it. So he was like, would you be interested in taking on this project? And I told him, like, look, I got two other projects that I have to do because that's, like there's only so many projects you can do and then you start to fail at everything. So I told him I got two projects, but for that kind of money to be just one client. And he goes, man, I tell you, like if I could get good product, I wouldn't be 350 a year. I'd probably be 500 or 600 a year because I would just be the only guy selling good product to this certain power plant. Right. And it's not a power plant that we currently work on. So I'm like, all right, ship me one. I'll get going on it as best as I can, as fast as I can, because I might be able to source parts very, very quickly for him. So I'm not going to say no, but I certainly wasn't going to promise the world to the guy either, right? With just the conversation I had with him, I was like, if your project kicks and it sticks, then I would have to put like 3 more people on staff just to take care of your project. And this year, we've hired a bunch of guys. We're getting them from other industries. We're getting them from tire changing guys to inventory people from, like our gal Steph. She did inventory for a not automotive based project at all. But she comes in and, she's doing a great job for us. It's still in her wheelhouse because she did inventory before. She's doing good at it. The tire guys and stuff, like they're used to like manual work. You really want your tire guy to be a thinker because he is responsible for your brakes, your shocks, and your tires, right? So you don't really want any of those things to fail or fall off or roll past you going down the road. So I've found that, and I bet that we've got half dozen tire guys right now. Um, they're good because this is a lot easier work than what they're used to. The climate is 70 all day long every single day instead of, minus 13 to 105. So it's a lot easier work. They can plan on doing it for the rest of their lives. No injector guy's ever going to get a hernia by picking up a 2-pound injector. Cummins QSK, like they're like, if you saw off that to that, that's the size of a QSK injector. So still not going to get hurt. But you pick up a QSK, it's maybe 7 or 8 pounds, I'm guessing. But man, the people, where are they going to come from? I hope that we continue to grab them out of other industries or government jobs right now. If they're going to go through and clean house on the government and they're going to eliminate a bunch of jobs, then theoretically that should eliminate a bunch of really capable, very smart people to come to work for privateer companies. So not just Dynomite, but if the government gets rid of, I don't know, 1 million jobs, then those 1 million people need to get out into the private sector of life and get to work. And it seems to me like those would be primary candidates for, hiring, right? So, and again, like if you can go to work for the right company, the government benefit program is probably the best on the absolute planet. But if it's not available, then there's a lot of smaller companies like mine that do a really good job at making sure that people have 401ks and medical and all the things. So, yeah, it's a big wheel, man. Lots of spokes. Every person I see out there's a spoke, and we're all just in the same goddamn wheel.
I'm sure next time we chat, we'll have either things will be really different, or I know they'll progress. So it'll be kind of cool to see. But you got a lot going on. You got the Australia trip, got some cool things that you're working on. Got that blue second gen for sale, which if I had 60 grand, I would be that guy that would give you 60 grand for it. And I would be happy.
Let's go. No bankruptcies, but you just got to pay me. Yeah. Like the unfortunate part about that truck is it's perfect right now. Like it's ready to go.
Yeah.
And it's going to sit out there. And the next time I go out there, it's going to have a low tire, a dead battery, or, I hate the thought of it. But if a mouse climbs up in any of my stuff out there and starts chewing on wiring harnesses, that's going to make me go crazy. So I would just soon get rid of the thing right now before it's damaged at all and just goes to rot. Like I got enough projects, but I'll still have a P7100 truck. It just won't be that one. So yeah, it's got to go.
It's hard to find 32,000 mile second gen 12 valves that are clean like that. So it's like that's what the market commands. You can't go buy a new one like that. So if you can find them, they're tough to find. I used to look all the time for one. I had a real itch to get one for a long time, and I just kind of gave up because they were all 150, 250,000 miles. They were either in the Rust Belt or you could tell they were worked hard. And I was like, I just don't really want that kind of project. I wasn't at that stage to want to do it. So yeah, whoever does get that one, they're lucky.
It's a great truck. It's got a Carly pin top with like 3-inch king shocks. And I mean, it's a really nice truck, but it's still a second gen. And if you're the kind of guy that, doesn't want to be affected by an EMP bomb possibly, then this is a great truck because you're not shutting it off. Like it doesn't have an ECM. The stereo and the remote start might might not work, but it'd still start. Now, do I think that it's worth 60 grand? Unfortunately, no. It's just that's how much money I'm into it. So somebody's going to have to think it's worth 60 grand. But right now, like I could use that same 60 grand on a new tool and get the company propelled a little bit further forward. Right. And right now, that's my priority is just on that stuff. Like I'd rather blow the dough on that. So
it's makes sense. Makes sense. Very cool. Well, I appreciate chatting with you today, Lenny. Hope you have a good trip. I'm sure you'll have some awesome stories from down there. You'll have to update me on some of the cool projects. I know there's a lot of cool vehicles and things people work on in Australia. And the overlanding side, too, is really cool. So hopefully, yeah, have some cool stories for us. Look forward to catching up with you and getting your opinion on a bunch of different things, from tariffs, emissions, what truck owners are going to want in 3 to 5 years, what the guys with older trucks are wanting. So it's always cool to chat with you.
I'm really curious to see what your lawyer guy says here in the future on all the same, it's I just more professional advice would be really good. And for all the viewers out there that are watching or listening, don't jump right now on what everybody's doing. Like, take a chill. You've been driving a truck with a DPF for a good long time. Like, it's going to be okay. But let's wait to see where some of these pieces land before you go get yourself in trouble. Because you never know. Like, I just think that these 2 years ago, nobody was going to prison. And now dudes are going to prison. Like, no thanks. I want nothing to do with any of that. Like, if they were trying to set an example, you did that, sirs. You did that. I don't think anybody should go to prison for deleting a truck. Like, that's just crazy, but it's happening. So, and what's funny is, like, these people, Facebook forums, right? Like, they're like, who can get me a delete for my truck? And I'm thinking, bro, are you crazy, or are you just ignorant and don't know that this is a real problem? Like, dudes have gone to prison, and I guess people just don't understand. Like, I think I'd rather get caught selling drugs rather than, delete parts. Like, it seems like it'd be a lot easier to get off.
That's really good advice, and I'll definitely make sure and ask him, some of the questions, probably others, and hopefully get a direction on it. But yeah, it was cool chatting with you. I always enjoy our conversations, and you give me things to think about, kind of look out, pay attention to, and yeah, it's really kind of fun. It's an exciting time, so I'm looking forward to see how things shake out.
Yeah, buddy. Well, thank you, Patrick. I appreciate you and all you do for the industry.
Don't forget, diesel fans, make sure and head on over to Kershaw.kaiusa.com. Use code TDP2540. It'll get you 40% off MSRP. It's a great way to save some money and get some cool gear if you're in the market for a new EDC knife, something for hunting, fishing, around the job site, around the house. They've got you covered with a bunch of different choices for blade steel, blade shape, different opening mechanisms, handle designs. And their whole lineup's designed to meet any budget that you might have. So if you're in the market, make sure and head on over to Kershaw.kaiusa.com and use code TDP2540 for 40% off MSRP. Also want to give a shout out to some of our Patreon supporters: Tyler Lowe in the 23 Diesel, Cutter Up Rob, Robert, all of other Patreon supporters, all of you who subscribe on YouTube and podcast apps. Follow us on social media. We appreciate all your support here in year 9 of the Diesel Podcast and look forward to bringing you more of the content that you want to hear in 2025. Till next time, keep the shiny side up.